What was your good morning to you, by the way. What was your first reaction to Mark McGowan's decision to postpone that date?
Well, Peter, was quite frankly disbelief. Was just unbelievable that the government would make a decision like this 3 weeks before they were due to reopen, giving business, giving the community, giving the rest of the country no certainty at all around when they would reopen, and no way forward for the state, which is already struggling as it is. We've got enormous pressures on business in the West, not able to get people, not able to get supplies, and this is just going to prolong it. It means that Western Australia is going to basically be left behind as the rest of the country moves forward. Now, it's relying very heavily on the resources sector, but basically there's not much else behind it out of West Australia. So it was really an amazing press conference when you sat and watched it, and it really sent business a message that WA would remain shut for a very long time. Don't look to WA, look elsewhere. And what it really told business, it was a reinforcement, Pete, was that decisions of National Cabinet to reopen aren't worth the paper they're written on. The agreements are made and then broken by premiers, really without any major justification. It makes you wonder why they bother turning up to National Cabinet. It was really an amazing decision which sent all the wrong messages to the business community and the community more broadly.
So how is the business going with just a domestic economy at the moment as things stand?
Well, in WA, I mean, they're locked away. Businesses are telling us there that it's almost impossible to get staff. You're seeing a lot of business closures, particularly at the small end, because they're just not getting people through. Tourists aren't coming, obviously. They're not getting the staff that they need. There's enormous pressure on the Western Australian economy at the moment, and that's just going to get worse as time goes on. I mean, you're seeing massive price spikes. You're seeing real pressures around supply chains. What you're seeing in the rest of the country is really being exacerbated in WA because they're staying locked away, and it's making businesses basically in the rest of the country turn their back on the West because it's really not worth the effort in many cases.
I saw you point out earlier today that a pint of beer in some instances in Perth, $16 because of supply chain issues. I mean, where does that end up?
Well, hopefully it doesn't end up more than $16 because it's ridiculous as it is. But I just use that as an example of what's going on over there because of the pressures on the economy. Businesses can't get staff. They're struggling to get supplies. It's all the things that you need to make a business work are just not happening in WA, particularly at that smaller end, and they're missing out around tourism, around hospitality, around retail. All of those sort of sectors, which is sort of part of the lifeblood of the economy, are more than struggling. They're in deep depression at the moment over there. And the signal is that they'll stay that way for months and months to come. And so there's no sort of roadmap out from here. There's no forward planning. And in fact, there's been no planning, and that's the reason why they're in this situation. And you talk to people in Perth, as I did last night, the hospital system just isn't ready, doesn't have the capability. So they haven't thought this through and worked forward. And now business is suffering and the community is suffering.
I just want to ask you about rapid antigen tests. I mean, we spoke about this last year. You called for it in the middle of last year. I have put that to the government this week, and they have assured that they were working on it at the middle of last year, but still there's huge shortfalls when it comes to that. Do you believe them when they say that? And was it done with enough urgency?
No, there wasn't enough urgency either by federal or by state authorities. You had the health authorities drag their feet on this for reasons that they will have to explain at some later point. They didn't like the idea of rapid tests. They couldn't fit them in with their PCR testing. They were very slow to give approvals. The TGA was just very, very ambivalent about this. States didn't want to pick it up. We've talked about this now for over 6 months. It was very obvious to business that this was going to be a key part of our weaponry to fight COVID, to keep people at work, and to keep the economy functioning. But they've been incredibly slow out of the blocks, and we're now paying the price for that stubbornness. If we don't, and part of the problem now that we see is that with the rapid tests not having enough, far from enough, with the isolation rules, you're seeing some businesses with up to 50% of staff not being able to turn up at any times, and you're seeing that every day in your supermarket, and you can track this back to a lack of action months ago around rapid tests and getting ready for that and bringing them into the country.
Okay. Ines Willox, as always, thanks for your time. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Pete. You take